Hello. You've got me for a few minutes, I'm afraid, before... Hello. You got me for a few minutes while AJ takes care of necessary requirements in the changing room. Over to the floor for questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same, which is, give us your reaction to the fight.
Yeah, I think that obviously there was a huge amount of pressure on him tonight. I could see that in the changing room. The camp was 5 weeks, maybe a little bit more for Dillian Whyte, completely different style. And when we made the selection of opponent on Sunday or Monday, there was the concern that, you know, Helenius is tall, it's a different style to Dillian Whyte, but when we looked at the other options, no one was similar to Dillian in style. So I think we knew that it would take a few rounds to break him down. Did it take one or two more than expected? Maybe, but it was difficult to land the right hand on him. I'm just pleased that he finished it in the way he did, because I think obviously, you know, it's easy to criticise if the fight starts going longer and he doesn't let that right hand go, but with a knockout of the year, pleased, relieved, and ready to move forward.
Yeah, I know you're unlikely to sort of criticise your market or your fights, but 3 rounds they've started doing it's a bit horrible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that everybody's talking about, oh, AJ's, you know, not the same fighter, he's lost his killer. So it kind of like, just that noise makes people have that reaction quicker. And I think when you've shown that in the last couple of fights, maybe, people maybe do that 3 or 4 rounds quicker than they should do. I mean, to do it after 2 or 3 rounds is almost quite strange. But also people want to see the old AJ. The old AJ was just an inexperienced guy who didn't really know what he was doing, but had to fight like that because he didn't know how to break an opponent down, didn't know if he could go the distance. And now I think it's just a stage of doing things his way after giving everybody great entertainment. And he'll still give entertainment, but he's also not going to necessarily take chances that could see him lose a fight he shouldn't, cross his feet over, trade with his chin in the air, and you know, all these kind of things when he can do what he did tonight. Now, in an ideal world, that would have come in the 3rd, 4th or 5th round, and you know, you wouldn't have seen that reaction. But at the end of the day, I think now he should be as selfish as possible, and I think he should fight in a way that will see him beat his opposition. And tonight he got the job done.
Eddie, after tonight's performance, did it tell you anything about AJ that shows that he's ready for Deontay Wilder in January?
I think that he can beat Deontay Wilder comfortably, but he can also get beat by Deontay Wilder. I don't think necessarily. I mean, the good thing is he got, what was it, 7 rounds in against a tall opponent who can punch a bit with a backhand. I think it's difficult to replicate certainly the power of Deontay Wilder. But I've always felt that AJ can outbox Deontay Wilder. But also I prefer him to box tentatively than his old style against Deontay Wilder. I know he can beat him with that style as well, but I would like to see him box Deontay Wilder, try and break him down. If he lands the right hand on Wilder like that, the fight's over. And vice versa. If Wilder lands the right hand, that's why it's one of the best fights in boxing. But I also think you're not really going to see the best of AJ in fights against Franklin and Helenius. It's why he chose Dillian Whyte, because it was a fight that he actually wanted and he could get up for. So this week's been a complete nightmare, and you know, I think honestly, if he would have just boxed like that for another 6 rounds and just won on points, I know people would have been disappointed, but I would have just gone, thank God. But just pleased that he got the showreel knockout.
Do you think though, if AJ is to go the distance like that with Wilder and take his time, that would be much more explosive, much more of a dangerous risk to be in the ring with someone like Wilder? Fury got put down 4 times boxing Wilder. If AJ was to get tackled like Fury, would that be something you wouldn't want to see?
Yeah, maybe, but obviously, you know, I think you'll box according to the opponent, and I think that maybe he fights more aggressive against Wilder. I don't think you're going to see him just taking chances. I think he likes his chances as a boxer puncher. Again, I think maybe a couple of rounds of trying to find that distance too much tonight. He struggled to time the right hand. That's what he said as soon as I got in the ring. He said he was really awkward to try and land the right hand. And obviously, Helenius had a go for about two rounds, and then kind of went into a little bit of a shell, using his feet in and out. And it was difficult to land flush without backing him up. And I felt like maybe he should have backed him up a little bit more, because every time he did, he looked dangerous.
Eddie, he said in the ring that he wants to go out twice more this year. And he told us he wants to box in Manchester next. Surely that could.
No, I mean, I think he just loves fight. Like, honestly, I've never seen him like this before, where he just wants to be so active. I mean, 2 times is going to be difficult, but certainly would love to fight again this year. We know that the Wilder fight would land probably in January, but also at the same time, he's been around a long time, where he's not just putting all his hopes on that fight. Like, it can get made, and it maybe won't get made. It's all on skills challenge in Saudi Arabia, whether that fight happens. Everything we're hearing from every side is that that fight's going ahead in January. But until we sign, you know, we've got to keep the options open. But again, my worry is that who's it going to be? You know, and I think boxing at that level that he's boxing at tonight, and Franklin, you know, although they gave him decent opposition, it's just, you know, he wants to be in those big fights. But at the same time, he's really enjoying his time with Derek James. The camp was totally different. The sparring was totally different. He was a bit more tentative because I just think it was a new opponent and there was so much on the line. But he's enjoying his boxing.
If you do a deal in the next few days with Skills Challenge and it's signed from this side, would you forego a fight now for?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
That was the fight. That was the fight before. If we fight Wilder, and we 100% want to fight Deontay Wilder. To be honest with you, like, AJ is easy. Like, he would fight Wilder, no problem at all. If he can't fight Wilder, or that deal falls through, he'll want to know when he's fighting next, because that's his mindset at the moment. I think he'd like to get back out to Dallas, back into camp. He'll have a few weeks off, but he's not going to want to hang around. And you know, my only worry is when Deontay Wilder boxes. I heard that Malik Scott said on our Matchroom boxing podcast that they're planning a fight in October, which worries me a little bit. But at the same time, you know, one of the things that shows you how much AJ wants to fight is, I don't think Deontay Wilder would box for the purse that AJ boxed for tonight. You know, and AJ really don't care. He doesn't care how much he's getting to fight Deontay Wilder. Honestly, he just wants to fight. And if that's going to take time, then he'll want to fight again ASAP. But from the team's point of view, and I know what he wants ultimately, the Wilder fight's one we want to get.
Eddie, what did you make of the crowd reaction after the rounds?
Yeah, a bit disappointing, but also I understand everybody's looking for the big KO. Everybody's had a few beers, and it was quite a late main event. And I think, you know, like I said to Wally, the news, not agenda, but of he's this, he's that. It does happen, you know. I mean, even going back to, like, if a fighter has had a performance where someone thinks they're a little bit gun shy or whatever, I've seen it with other fighters. I mean, all of a sudden, the pressure mounts earlier to be exciting, and that's what people want. That's what they pay the money for. But I think he'll be excited, and he gave me knockout of the year. But he'll also box in a way that will give him every chance to be victorious.
Eddie, we had a late replacement. We had the Wilder fight looming. It felt like we were back in 2019. Were you worried at any point, especially after those first 2 rounds?
Yeah, not really in the ring. You know, it was pretty tense back in the change room, because I feel like there wasn't a lot of upside tonight. You know, everyone was, obviously Deontay Wilder knocked him out in the round, and that was one of the decisions why we didn't go with Helenius first time around. Before Dillian White signed, Ajit Kabiel and Helenius had both agreed terms, but there was always a little bit of reluctancy to fight Robert Helenius because of the Wilder fight. So there wasn't really, I think the best we could hope for was a knockout like that. I know it went a few more rounds than people might have liked, but that was about the best finish we could hope for, which was a one-punch devastating knockout. So relieved. It was pretty tense backstage. I mean, he puts so much pressure on himself because of the work that he's put in. He puts his pressure on himself for the performance, and I think sometimes, you know, no one's a big fan of critics, and obviously they got him on him early tonight, but he replayed him.
Have you got any message from Shady Finkel yet?
Not yet, no. I'll just check now. Yes. Congratulations. That was it. My pal. Oh, and as he said, this thing where it all goes with confetti everywhere as well. Didn't know that. Showing my age, didn't know that. Yeah.
He's older than you.
What?
He's older than you.
Just, I've got a funny story about Shelley Finkel. We was at this JD Sports after hours. I told you the story, didn't I? And people were queuing up to just, it was like a Q&A for photos and stuff like that. And this guy came up to me, short fella with glasses on. I guess he was like in his 50s. And he came up to me and he said, do you know who my hero is? I'm thinking like Anthony Joshua, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. I went, no, who? He said, Shelley Finkel. And I thought it was a wind-up. And he went, he's my absolute idol. And I went, all right, mate, have a nice night. And off it went. It was a bit random. But I actually get on very well with Shelley now. And look, they want the fight. Of course, it's a huge money fight. They think they can win the fight. And you know, they'll be pushing Skills Challenge as well to try and get it done from there.
What's the hold of
Nothing really. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. And they want to get the timing right. You know, there was talks of December 26. Obviously, a lot of the talks was about this double header, which has obviously lost pace now. So Joshua Wilder would headline it. And I guess Usyk against Hrgovic could also feature on the card as well now, subject to the Dubois fight. So no real delay, just I think they wanted to get tonight out of the way. I mean, they weren't over the moon when we chose Dillian White, but talks kind of stopped about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, because they wanted them to resume after August 12th.
They did a huge knockout for AJ tonight. How much did he need for his confidence if he does go into this fight?
Yeah, I think it's always good to finish a fight like that. You know, I think if it would have gone to points, there would have been criticism. I'm sure there'll still be some criticism as well. But I think when you have a finish like that, it's good for the mojo. And I think, obviously, seeing the numbers already virally, that's what you want as a promoter, as a broadcaster, as a fighter, for his profile, for his confidence. Great to win a fight like that, and it was a devastating knockout.
Do you think for his age, he relies on his corner a lot more than he probably should for a boost of his confidence?
I always want him to believe in himself, you know, as much as he can, and maybe sometimes he doubts himself a little bit. I think maybe that can come with worrying about criticism too much, and actually, you know, he doesn't read criticism from necessarily the fans, but he reads it from his peers, I think, and the industry. Probably won't admit that, but and I think he wants to prove it. He wants, I think, whether he admits it or not, I think that's important to him, to be respected in boxing as a guy who fought everybody and was a very good fighter. So I think sometimes he doubts himself a little bit too much. I said to him in the change room tonight, and I hear everything about camp, especially from sparring partners and the trainers of sparring partners. And for the Franklin camp, the response was good, but this camp was different. He was hurting sparring partners. He looked fantastic in training camp, and everyone was excited. The change of opponent derailed maybe the performance a little bit, but you know, he should have confidence because he's a tremendous heavyweight. And he's, you know, I felt like saying in the change room tonight, you're almost like a veteran. He's been through so much. I mean, you think, you know, he boxed Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley, even before that, Dillian White here in a tear-up for the British title, Klitschko at Wembley, unification at Millennium Stadium, Povetkin at Wembley, got stopped by Ruiz at Madison Square Garden, had to go to Saudi Arabia to rematch him and win. You know, came back, fought Usyk twice, won it in top. I mean, he's done it all, so he should believe in the experience that he's gained.
And you don't think he listens to the crowd a bit too much?
No, I don't think so. No, I think he's needed that voice in the corner, the one voice that he believes in, and I think he believes in Derek James now. And you know, I think Derek said to me after the fight, I was just saying to him, you know, just keep backing him up and look to find that right hand. And I think Josh said, just struggling to find the right hand. He said, just keep throwing it, it will come. And obviously, it did.
Last one from me. Do you think he should have checked on Helenius straight after rather than go off and do
Yeah, I did. You know, when he went out the ring, I looked over at him, and you know, we sort of crossed eyes about that. And I went to check on Helenius, and he was fine. He was trying to get his oxygen off. He wanted to get up, but he got. I think there's a little bit of frustration. And again, I just think you're damned if you do and you show sometimes too much compassion. you've lost there's no bad boy in you, and and you behave like that. And it's like, oh, you didn't show enough compassion. Honestly, I won't worry about it now. Just do whatever feels right at the time, because the criticism is going to be there whatever way. So I think he was a bit frustrated that maybe the fight was as slow as it was, and it was a bit of relief, and he knew Helenius was okay.
I want to get a word on what happened when Conor went to the ring. It seemed there was a bit of problems between his own security and your security.
To the ring?
To the ring side, yeah.
I'm not aware. I know that earlier on in the night I saw some sort of nothing major, but just, I think obviously when you travel in big numbers, and our security is doing a job to make sure that certain people get ringside, but I don't believe it was anything of any note, but haven't heard anything from the team, but obviously we'll have a debrief tomorrow.
Eddie, at the end of the fight, Joshua said he's carrying the whole of the heavyweight division on his back. And that was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but do you think he actually feels that way and he has to have that extra pressure on him?
I think he feels like he probably, not necessarily has more to prove than everyone, but everyone's looking at him to do something spectacular. I mean, when you look at the heavyweight division right now, Usyk is an outstanding fighter. Is he overly entertaining in the ring? He's a genius, but Tyson Fury, his last fight was against Derek Chisora, and he's now fighting a guy from MMA who's never had a boxing match before. So he's not really doing a lot for the heavyweight division, is he? Deontay Wilder hasn't boxed for 18 months. Andy Ruiz hasn't boxed for a year. So, that's the first time I've actually thought about it like that. So Josh is active. He's had 2 heavyweight fights in the space of 4 months, and he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. So I think this is a good run for AJ. I mean, it's definitely the most active we've ever seen him, especially through COVID. He was down to nearly 1 fight a year, so that's 2 fights in 4 months, and he wants to get back in the ring ASAP.
Yeah, he wants to be active. He's with Derek James now, which he seems very happy with. He seems very motivated. It seems like another stage of his career. He's so driven. Do you feel like with Derek James that he's still learning? I hear a lot of things about he's always learning.
He's a student of the game, and he wants to learn. He wants to keep learning, and probably overthinks a little bit too much sometimes. But he's so invested in the sport. Like, his whole life is boxing. It's actually remarkable for what he's achieved, for what he's earned, that he just still lives like a boxing nut in camp. He gives everything. All he tries to do is find an edge, find a way, improve. It's boxing, boxing, boxing. It's the only thing that he has any interest in his life. And I think he should be applauded for that, to be that hungry for success still at the stage that he's at. And obviously he's found a place in Dallas that he's happy with Derek James.
Absolutely, and he deserved that little sip of the beer at the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the greatest move in the world, the Irish stout, but 2 sips as well, 2 gulps. But I think it was a lot of emotion, a lot of relief as well. I did tell Conor that we should send 2 invoices for that, because that was definitely not in the agreement.
What did you make of Derek Chisora's performance?
I think it was a sluggish performance against a difficult style for him, someone that moves a lot. Yeah, and the question is, do I feel that Derek Chisora should retire? I think it's disrespectful for me to voice too much of an opinion on that of someone that knows himself better than anybody. If I'm being completely honest, and he phoned me up and said, that's it for me, I'd be pleased, because I think that's a good time to bow out after a victory. And I don't think he can win a fight at the top tier of the heavyweight division anymore. And I don't want to see him get stopped in a fight or whatever, but at the same time, I respect him and I like him a lot, and it's up to him, but it's really down to what level you want to continue fighting at. So for me, his best days are behind him, and I think those around him will be a better judge than me. But if he stepped away from the sport, I would also be happy that he's certainly done his service and he could retire. But he also loves fighting. Again, we talk about AJ. It's very difficult to leave the sport, and AJ is obviously a lot fresher and fighting at a different level. But when you love something like that, and it consumes your life, they don't want to walk away. But obviously, he's just not performing at the level he once did.
At what point do you feel it's your responsibility, though?
Not mine. I don't represent him. I don't have any promotional contract with him. You know, he got this AJ show, Skills Challenge requested to put him on the show and paid for that, which he told everybody at the press conference. So we do that. I'm not going to turn around and say I'm not allowing him to box on Anthony Joshua's show and sorry Skills Challenge, but would I put him in a fight on my show? Not necessarily, but he's great value, he's a great man. But at the same time, I really feel like it's a personal decision and one that, I'll say it's none of my business, but I would be happy if he walked away. Yeah.
Any more questions, guys?
Right.
We've got about 10 minutes.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe for more videos of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Hub TV, and give us a follow online as well at Fight Hub TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.